All right. We've got 22 people. I think there is still a few people going to join us in a moment, but let's slowly start. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to Vancouver DevOps Meetup. My name is Andrzej Kamiński, and together with Willie, Ilse, and Martin, I'm co-organizer of this event. Now, in today's session, we've got one presentation, and we'll be talking about SRE, site reliability engineering, as Google calls it, or service reliability engineering, as we call it at WorkSafeBC. And I have a privilege of working at WorkSafeBC and work together with one of our presenters today, Naveen. At WorkSafeBC, we started with service reliability engineering in 2018. But due to restructuring, this function moved somewhere else, and primarily is focusing right now on observability and monitoring. However, SRE is way more than that. I cannot understate the importance of SRE practice. And if I were starting my career today, and I am 24, although I feel like 18, but if I were starting my career today, I would want to be SRE. And why? Because this is like drinking from fire hose. And there is a lot of benefits. Like there is no better way of learning fast and gaining experience. You've got the exposure to multiple technologies, to entire stack, starting from networking, packets, firewalls, APIs, through the application's functionality. It also allows us to learn how to stay calm under stress, how to become well-organized, how to make quick decisions. Now, for sure, it's not for everyone. Definitely is not for faint-hearted. But it is type of learning that is forged in fire. So although technologies will change in the future, the sixth sense that is developed during this practice stays for life. So the benefit is that it potentially can jumpstart your career. And honestly speaking, in technical area, that's most probably the sky is the limit. So I'm going to hand over to Willie to introduce the speaker. I'm looking forward to hear from Naveen his experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Andre. Before we begin with our main attraction, a few housekeeping notes. This session is being recorded and will be shared on our Meetup YouTube channel in about a month's time. Please mute your microphones when not talking. Hold your questions for the question and answer section and/or add them to the chat. Also, remember, we need your actionable feedback to improve the meetup and your ideas for future sessions. And now, for our main attraction, what are SREs and why do we need them? So with 18 years of experience in creating collaborative platforms and innovative solutions, Naveen has played key roles in engineering, architecture, and technical leadership. He joined WorkSafeBC as a site reliability engineer in 2019, after working in various engineering roles at companies such as Starbucks and Microsoft. Naveen is passionate about scaling applications, troubleshooting, distributed systems, and engineering reliable and operationally excellent or sound solutions. He promotes collaboration and leads solutions across engineering teams, and he is a trusted expert when we detect smoke or the infamous 2 a.m. incident occurs. Naveen, can I hand over the virtual floor to you?
Thank you, Willie, and thank you, Andre, for the introduction. So let me share my screen. Let me know if you can see my screen okay.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, thank you, Andre. Hello, everyone. So welcome to today's presentation and thanks for joining. My name is Naveen and I am honored to be presenting today. Today, I will talk about what is SRE role and what is day-to-day life of an SRE at WorkSafeBC. We live in a world where digital services has become an integral part of our daily lives. Reliability is often taken for granted. We expect website to load instantly, apps to run smoothly, and transaction to process without a hitch. But have you wondered, right, behind the scenes, ensuring this level of reliability require careful planning, strategic implementation, and continuous monitoring. Site reliability engineers or SRE play a critical role in maintaining the reliability and performance of online services in any organization. I will discuss why reliability should never be an afterthought and why investing in SRE practice is essentially for the success of any digital business in modern world. Together, let's uncover why reliability is anything but easy to take for granted and how does a typical day-to-day looks like in a like at WorkSafeBC for an SRE. So let's get started with a little introduction of mine. So I'm Naveen Aggarwal, currently senior SRE at WorkSafeBC, working with Ray, Willie, and Martin. Total 18 years of work experience in software industry, spanning different roles. This is my first job in Canada. Before that, I was working in Greater Seattle area for 6 years, of which 5 years at Microsoft Redmond headquarters as a consultant and 1 year at Starbucks coffee company. I did my Master of Computer Application in 2005, and uh, I started my career as a coding as a software engineer, then move to different role, progress to different role, but I'm pretty much comfortable doing coding with like .NET, PowerShell, and have experience developing different type of all varied type of solution, be it a desktop solution, web application, or mobile application, or big data solution, content management system. And since last year, I am mostly focused on the cloud infrastructure and automation. So feel free to connect on LinkedIn if you are interested in any of these topic, SRE or building and designing large scale systems, so which I'm passionate about. Uh, a disclaimer, as a learning public speaker, should I stumble or miss on a bit, so my apologies in advance. Let's turn this into a chance to learn and grow together. So these are the topics which I am planning to discuss today. We'll start with the brief history and evolution of SRE, how it started. What is the cost of downtime any organization or customer face? The traditional wall of confusion. What is the difference in the key matrices of DevOps and SRE? And how do SRE help in reduce the toil and the budget for failures? And uh, what important role they play in the monitoring and alerting strategy for any organization? And then we'll follow the uh, typically day-to-day activity of my job at WorkSafeBC on the right-hand side, like what we do. So every organization has a different implementation of this SRE, but I have tried to collate all the common tasks which are a lot common in many organizations. So yeah, at WorkSafeBC also we have a specific implementation of SRE, and I will cover that like in my day-to-day activity. And some of them who are like in this role, they might able to relate, right? Uh, the some of the common tasks, right, which this role is responsible for. If you heard about this site reliability engineering or SRE earlier, you might or might not know, right? This concept was born at Google. You might be wondering, right? Why did Google establish the SRE role, and how did SRE spread from the large search giant to companies of all types, including not limited to web scale business with massive reliability needs? Even if you look for SRE jobs on LinkedIn or any job platform, you will find a lot of jobs, right? In hundred of jobs for SRE title. And you will notice, right, that's not just limited to like uh, the scale company, right? Facebook, Netflix, or Uber. You will find this role available in like small to medium size of companies as well. So how did this role started? The first SRE team originated at Google in 2003 under the direction of Ben Trainer Sloss, who had begun his career as a software engineer at Oracle and several other companies before joining Google. And some of the key reason for starting this role was uh, the first thing was web scale reliability need, right? Google was one of the first company with truly massive reliability needs. Most business could get away with some downtime or like slow page load. After all, I was in college at that time, and right, more than 50 million US households still had a dial-up connection, right? Not reliable at that time. But as one of the largest web companies on the internet, Google was on the mission of a new type of user experience that involved minimum downtime and latency. So that was the primary factor, right? They wanted to have some role, right, which can cater to that needs. The second one was massive infrastructure. Google was one of the first company with truly massive distributed infrastructure, because in 2003, the public cloud was not yet a thing. And a few business had 100 or maybe 1,000 of servers spread across dozen of data center to manage. But Google did, which is why, right, it needed a strategy that would enable large scale automation of reliability across this massive infrastructure. Most other businesses wouldn't face this challenge until they started to move out of like on the cloud later, but that happened later in 2000s. And the most important reason, right, there was no DevOps at that time, right? If Ben would have joined Google 5 years later than he did, it's reasonable to imagine he would have formed the DevOps team rather a SRE team to achieve the type of code-driven reliability he was thinking. After all, DevOps and SRE, they are driven by the similar, not exactly identical methodology and goal. But in 2003, DevOps didn't yet exist. So Google had to invent its own concept from scratch. You might be wondering, right, why DevOps emerged in parallel to SRE instead of merging with it. So that's a story for another time. We'll discuss. I want to share a few recent downtimes which you might have also experienced. Now, as we live in digital age and we use a lot of online services, right? Every few months, you might have seen like some service provider has gone down. But this is a curation of downtime which I have faced like in last few years, and I personally kind of impacted by those. So that's why I just included these one. Uh, the Amazon Prime Day outage in 2018, right? As soon as Prime Day started in July 2018, within like 6 to 10 minutes, the company website experienced intermittent outage, and that prevented users from accessing deals and making purchase. This outage lasted for several hours, and it results in lost sale opportunity and negative publicity for Amazon. Next year, it was Facebook outage in 2019, March. They experienced one of the longest outage, lasted for over 24 hours. And that outage not only affected only the Facebook, the social app, but also the other platforms, which include Instagram and WhatsApp. So, and this downtime disturbed communication for billions of users worldwide. And this is the Microsoft outage, Azure outage in 2021. We were at WorkSafeBC, we were also impacted by this. In March 2021, Microsoft Azure experienced a widespread outage that affected multiple services. It started with Azure Active Directory, then Azure DevOps, Azure Monitor. And this also lasted for several hours, impacting businesses relying on Azure for cloud infrastructure and service. This incident led to disruption in productivity and raised concern about resilience of cloud-based systems. And the last one, this is very fresh, right? From this weekend only, you might have seen our London drugstore, right? Our own local drugstore, which spans Western Canada. So they have to close all their like more than 75 branches due to cyber attack. So basically the downtime, it just not affects the service provider, right? It impacts the like end customers, right? More, and it has a long-term negative effect on basically any business. Now comes the question, what is site reliability engineering? So if you search Google for a definition of SRE, right, you will come across many definitions for this title, right? But in simplest form, I would define it as simple as, right, sysadmin who can code and coders who can do sysadmin. Site reliability engineering is a discipline that incorporates aspect of software engineering and apply them to the infrastructure and operation problem. SRE is what happens when you ask a software engineer to design an operation function. This one is the most widely accepted definition of SRE, and it's given by the Ben, who originally created the first SRE team at Google. The ideal site reliability candidate is either a software engineer with good administration background or a highly skilled system administrator with a knowledge of coding and automation. So, and you might have seen, right, as Andre also mentioned, right, some people use site reliability engineering or service reliability engineering interchangeably. So there is a difference in both of these. The site reliability engineering focus on ensuring the reliability of specific site or application, while service reliability engineering extend this approach to encompass the reliability of entire services, often involving multiple interconnected components and systems. So, but these are like used interchangeably, but there's a little difference between these two. If you look at a historical problem, you might have seen this, right? Wall of confusion. On the left-hand side, we have developers. On the right-hand side, we have operation folks. And historically, dev teams, they want to release new features, right, in a continuous manner by developing new stuff. And they throw it over this wall, right, metaphorical wall, which we call. Ops people, on the other hand, they are responsible for managing that stuff, right, for reliability of that service. As they are responsible for, they want stability, right? So operators, they don't have much knowledge about the code this developer has written, and the developers, they know little about the operations. You might be wondering, right, what does business want, right? Of course, the business want both. Business want to release new feature faster and also keeping the production system stable. So these two group of people in the same organization, they have been incentivized very differently, leading to this wall of confusion. And I think this is a very terrible setup, and it's not designed for harmony within the organization. This setup doesn't scale well, and it creates organization silos. But is there any way we can calculate the riskiness of a given change? Yes, there is a way. That is through defining SLA and SLO, which is the primary task of SREs, which we will discuss. These are the two key matrices for DevOps and SRE. You might see, right, both DevOps and SRE share a common goal. Their objective is to improve the reliability, performance, and efficiency of software delivery and operation processes. Both these methodology emphasize the importance of data-driven decision-making and continuous improvement. However, their approach and focus area differ significantly. DevOps typically focus matrices related to deployment frequency, lead time for change, process time, and percentage complete. On the other hand, SRE places a strong emphasis on the reliability matrices, which are like service level objective and service level indicator and error budgets utilization. If you have heard of this DORA, which is DevOps Research and Assessment Institute, right? They are a well-known institute which measure the effectiveness of the DevOps teams, right? How DevOps teams are doing in organizations or at a team level. So until 2021, there were only 4 DORA matrices, and they were focused on deployment frequency, lead time for changes, mean time to recover, and change failure rate. And their focus was on the software delivery process rather than the operation process, right? And but in 2021, they introduced a new matrices called reliability to the list of things for measuring the organization performance. So reliability was another factor. If you want to see the performance of any DevOps team or like how is an organization DevOps doing. So reliability is a kind of new matrices introduced in 2021, seeing the importance of, right, how it is important for any business. You might be thinking, right, why another discipline, right? But we have already like so many disciplines, right? We have system administrators and operators. Why is SRE? But imagine this, you are starting a new project, and like any architect, you are focused on the grand design. But as the project progresses, you realize something crucial: reliability. The backbone of any system has been left somewhere to chance. Non-functional requirements, including reliability, often take a backseat to the more glamorous functional features. They are not given regular review they deserve, right? The non-functional requirement. Most of teams, right, product owners, they are more focused on the functional requirement, and they pay less attention to the non-functional requirements. So reliability is one of them. And think of it, right? You just rolled out a new feature and you think, right, or the product owner think it's a game changer, but there's a catch. The change in the functionality could adversely impact reliability requirement assumed earlier. The reason being, right, you are improving, you are working on your functional requirement on day-to-day basis, but you are not paying the same level of attention to your non-functional requirement, because that may not be the priority, right? They are not getting updated. Application get during the lifetime of any application, right? It goes through a lot of changes. So SREs basically helps that to keep the non-functional requirement also on the track, and reliability is the foremost of them. And think of fast forward to an outage, the culprit, right? Change. It's a wake-up call that the traditional ops mindset, while they are expert at keeping the lights on, they are not always equipped for like lightning fast remedies demanded by today's dynamic environment and the complex environment we run. So the idea here is the evolution of system require an evolution of system engineers also, right? The way do our operations, because the system has become so complex, we can't use the traditional method for the operations. So we need to evolve our uh, operation processes as well. And SRE is the step in that direction. Let me talk about the toil. You might have seen what is toil, right? At its core, toil is about any repetitive task, manual task, right? Every team is doing some or other kind of manual task, and it comes with operating a system. You have a system, so definitely there will be some toil, right? Depending upon, right, the maturity level of an organization in the automation, but it exists, right? In progressive organization, right? It may be less, but most of the organization, they have to face this challenge. And think of it as a mundane day-to-day chores that keeps things ticking along. But there is a kicker, like toil doesn't scale well. As your service grow, toil increase exponentially, right? So, and it's not like it will just increase as your service is increasing. Sometimes it increase in exponentially. Some example of toil, right? Each product or service has some or other toils, but like some which I have seen, right? For example, manually reviewing, monitoring, and logging system every day to make sure your system is still running. You are still your deployment using manually, right? Copying the binaries on the files, right? This is example of toil. You are a manual process for quota request, or you want to apply a database schema. You are turning a service in a new availability zone or region by manually copy pasting the configuration. All these examples are toils, and they are normally originate from tickets. For example, some user or dev in your company, they create a ticket in Jira or DevOps asking the operator, oh, I want to run this script on that server. So this is an example of toil. But why toil is bad, right? Toil is bad because if your team is always involved in some kind of issue and task over and over again, right, they will not have time for training and learning. And it is drain on moral too, right? Like who wants to spend their day stuck in all repetitive manual tasks? And it stifles learning also. When your team is knee deep into operational tasks, there's a little time left for skill development and growth. So it not only organization as impacts the person or developer, it also affects the productivity of the organization as a whole. So what's the kind of solution, right? How do we predict the riskiness of a given change through SLO and SLA, which I will cover. What is SLO? It's a definition of availabilities. they are the internal objective that team agrees upon with their internal stakeholder, right? As a team, they come together, okay, they define some matrices, and the team include everyone. It is developer, product manager, SRE, and CTO, and they requires buy-in from the entire organization. And some of typically SLOs are, right, we want to, for example, have a uptime for our service 99.9% of a month. So which means, right, only in a month, my service can go down for 43 minutes. We want, as an organization, for our service, all the HTTP requests, they will 99.99%, they will succeed with 200, like without any error, right? This is successful. And 50% of those will return under 300 milliseconds. So each service has their own SLOs. So next, like SLO is the SLA. They are more formals, right? SLOs are internal to the organization, but SLA are kind of consequence of availability, right? What will happen if, as a provider, I am not able to meet my service level? So SLAs are more formals and are a business level agreement with the customer stating that what would happen if I don't meet my service levels, right? And they can be either explicit or implicit. And explicit is like where there are defined consequence, right? If Azure say, if my service is not available, so I will give those number of Azure credits, right? Or I will invoicing, right? This much of credit you will get as a customer in the invoicing. On the other hand, an implicit SLA is measured in terms of loss of reputation. This is kind of a big loss of reputation of business, and your customer decide to jump off the ship, right? So yeah, they are set at a level that is just enough to avoid customer jumping the ship, and therefore SLAs tend to achieve a lower SLI value than the SLOs. So when you meet your SLOs, you are automatically meeting your SLAs, because SLOs are internal, you set them lower than the SLAs. Error budget, right? This is another important kind of terms you will hear in for SRE. And this is the amount of time your service can go down. And the formula for that is error budget is 100% minus SLO. For example, if your SLO is 99%, that means your error budget is 1%. And if you multiply that with 30 days per month, you get around 7 hours, 14 minutes of downtime error budget per month. So this is the time you can spend on your maintenance. And if you go further, for example, if you add one more 9 to it, 99.9%, the value of error budget will reduce by 43 minutes, 28 seconds. And if you go even further, 99.99%, that is just reduced to 4 minutes, 21 seconds per month. That is the time your service can go down in a month. So this is something, a currency, right, for balancing innovation and stability. And you should allocate it wisely, right? Only for, right, you want to launch new feature, you want to make improvement in your service, or you want to just navigate unseen for circumstances. So now the question arises, right? What can you do if you exhaust the error budget? Possibly, you may not release new features, right? You can put a freeze, okay, until the product team, right? The dev team, they don't fix the this one reliability requirement. So you are not allowed to do roll out new features or change the velocity of updates. You have to prioritize engineering effort to reliability. But if you are within range of your SLO for a given period, so features can be deployed. Next come one of the important task of SRE team, which is monitoring. And this is a foundational capability for any organization striving its reliability for systems. Monitoring is basically a process of becoming aware of the system, right? The state of the system, how your system is doing, right? It's kind of internal health, right? And it acts as a first line of defense, providing real-time insights into the health and performance of our system. And by monitoring the key matrices, you can swiftly identify issues that require urgent attention, allowing prioritize and allocate resources effectively. So This also enables to spot trends over time, helping us to anticipate potential challenge and plan for future needs. So here is the thing in this business, success is the absence of failure, right? No news is the good news. When the dashboard is all green and systems you can think of, right? Systems are humming along like a well-oiled machine. The better you are at your job, someone might wonder, right? And you might be wondering, this is just what all SRE do. So let's look, right? What SREs other responsibilities, right? So SRE do at this is specific to WorkSafeBC. So we do incident response and operational support. We do measuring and monitoring system. We do release software. We participate in CAB, which is Change Advisory Board. We onboard new system to our teams. We do error budgeting, and we do automation to eliminate toil. The very important thing which SRE team at WorkSafeBC do is the incident response, right? The relentless pursuit of high availability is the core value of our team, right? It is a personality trait. We tend to be passionate about reliability and customer experience. We see exception in the log file, and then our natural curiosity is, right, find out why. When it comes to operational support, we try to keep this less than 50% of overall workload, but it's a constant pursuit challenge, right? There's no shortage of error logs or alerts to investigate. Next, a typical day involves quite a bit of triaging alerts from application monitoring and investigation root cause. That might means everything from debugging application code locally to combining different log files on app server, firewall, load balancer, and so on. Problem solving is a huge part of this job, and it is actually one of the most rewarding part for me personally as well, right? It keeps things interesting. And monitoring and automation is what we do, which means we are constantly tuning and tweaking alerts, trying to find just the right balance of useful alerts while eliminating the false positive. If we get an alert, but sometimes there is no action needed, well, then it's our action to improve that alert. Then we also do incident response, which is of two types, proactive versus reactive. Proactive is when we receive automatic alerts by email and SMS. It can be any alerts, right? Some availability failure is happening from service. There is some latency or slow response time faced by some service. There are some exception, failure to meet service level objective alerts has triggered. So next one, not that good for us, right? Our users, right? Incident reported by end users. Not a very favorable situation for us, but yeah, that happens, right? Our goal is to be proactive as possible, right? We never want user telling us when a system is slow or down. We should know what's happening before they do. In practice, easier said than done. We are always learning new failure modes that impact users and improving our monitoring to detect it. It's a path of continued learning and improvement to enhance reliability and performance, which leads to the next part of my day, releasing software. So SRE team also deploy changes. Normally when we do, there are two type of changes. Either, right, we change the application to improve the logging or telemetry or reliability requirement security enhancement. Sometimes we do small bug fix or small functional changes, but that's rare. Or we are making changes in the infrastructure, right? Cloud resource and Azure. We are updating the alerts. ARM templates and PowerShell, we are mostly Azure shop. So all our infrastructure is based on Azure ARM and PowerShell, which we are currently moving on Terraform. And how do we release software? We have very good CI/CD pipeline for software delivery already in place, right? As using Azure DevOps. So SRE can just commit changes to the code and follow the pre-established delivery flow that include pull request, code review, and DevSecOps baked right into the pipeline. So that will trigger automated integration testing and UI test too. So change control is not part of this process, which I will touch on later. And the same automation exists for infrastructure release also, right? We have similar pipelines for infrastructure and alerts. Being an Azure shop, we are predominantly ARM template and PowerShell script. The delivery process is almost identical to software flow above. We have Azure DevOps pipeline, security is big right into the pipelines. So who support SRE, right? We are caretaker of the application built by our Agile team, but we are not alone in the supporting them. SRE will fix or enhance what we can, but we also have support of dev teams when needed. We get support from coders, architects, cloud system engineers, common engineering teams. Occasionally, like sometime issue could arise that needs significant code refactoring. In some cases, we may exercise our return policy and pull in the original dev team to do the heavy lifting, but that's very rare. And we also define error budget through threshold beyond which no more enhancement can be made. Reliability must be restored to SLO before new feature can be released. So the organization as a whole has become very efficient at releasing software. Almost everything is automated through Azure DevOps pipeline. We are doing very good there, right, on in terms of deployment. And but there are still checks and balances along the way, including change control, the next part of my day. WorkSafeBC is fairly a large enterprise. There are literally hundreds of business applications on massively distributed infrastructure, cloud and on premises. Yes, we still have a data center based on Camlos, but we are reducing the footprints day by day, and now it is very small, like in terms of percentage. We are mostly on a journey to be 100% cloud, but dependency exists everywhere, right? And change is constant. Any change to software infrastructure must be logged as a change record, and that should receive a CAB approval before going into the production. So it's not as onerous as it sounds. We have made huge progress with high level of automation for low risk changes. There's always a trade-off in delivery speed versus change control, but it is important checkpoint, right? Each week, dozen of changes are being deployed across the organization. SRE participate in change advisory board meetings. This is a central forum, right, where all the teams, they come together, they discuss last minute risk, concern, or dependency on the identification and discuss, right, with all the stakeholders. So everybody's on the same page. Our role is to identify potential conflict or point of impact between plan changes. Personally, if I have learned anything from operational support, it is this: the source of the failure is almost always from the recent change. When something breaks, check with the change calendar. Change is constant and new systems are being built, which lead me to the onboarding application. So when Agile teams start a new project, they deliver new business value to the production in iterative manner. Initially, they will develop the product, they will deploy it to the product, right? And so it is supported by a cross-functional team, right? Next, when the product or team has delivered sufficient business value, they will prepare to move to a next project, right? And they want to enter into a sunsetting phase. This is when, right, SRE team prepare to assume responsibility for operating and supporting that service, which dev team has developed. Only after the completion of sunset, the Agile team move to their next initiative. And but this is a checkpoint, right? Is it ready for handover? So we have a exhaustive checklist, which we call SRE onboarding checklist, that covers the key area required for handover and of application. So what does this checklist contain? We want to make sure, right, before taking handover of the application, if architecture documents are accurated and updated, data flow diagram and user flow are defined, all the authentication and authorization model dependency, they are figured out. Incident response and escalation process is defined for that application. Basically, we want to know the stakeholder, right? Whom to notify for when there is a issue with that application. Service level indicator and SLO, they are defined and reviewed with the product owner. We normally like guide, mentor that discussion, but it is like with the product owner. Are we capturing the sufficient metrics for availability and dependency monitoring? And does application telemetry has enough traceability for incident investigation? For example, right, can I find the needle in the haystack when customer report an error? We do quality assessment also as part of sunset process. We do review code coverage, we do test automation, performance test benchmark to make sure application has sufficient quality gates pass. And next we do review technical debt and non-issues still open in the backlog, if any, because we want to make sure, right, if we get any service, we don't want to make it like we return it to the product team, right? If it has so many issues, so we don't want that. So we want to make sure as part of this checklist, team doesn't have any critical bug or tech debt open. And the last one, we want to make sure, right, we have access to all the pipelines, we have access to all the environments. So in the spirit of agile delivery, we are like SRE team constantly revising the onboarding practice. We are trying to shift left as much as possible. Previously, what we were doing this exercise at the tail end, right? And what we were doing that was causing a lot of reworks and introducing risk in the project. Now we work closer with the teams. Earlier, when the project starts the life cycle, we start introducing non-functional requirement into the backlog as early as possible. So what that helps us, right? Early engagement between SRE and dev team bring the added benefit of knowledge transfer as a continuous flow rather than a one-time exercise during sunset. And after any fires have been extinguished, the other 50% of our time should be available to automate and innovate. Eliminating toil is high on that to-do list. So as I mentioned, toil, right? With operation usually come toil, those repetitive tasks that we should automate. We can automate the handling of alert in some cases. System often have non-shortfalls, like maybe some system might require regular data fixes needed ad hoc or on schedule. These are opportunity for our team to develop new tools and utility to exercise our development chops and maybe explore some new techniques. Challenges of this role. So what is some sort of challenges for this job? It's a ever-changing landscape. WorkSafeBC is on a journey of modernization, right? We are moving all the workload to the cloud. Integration between cloud and on-premises evolving throughout that journey. Ever-increasing speed to deliver business value. Being the custodian of services which you didn't develop or test, right? You still support that. Understanding the business flow enough, right? You can support the end users. And sometimes there is no, or like the requirements, the documentation is not right, that enough, right, to support the application. And you have to use your intuition or clue in logs to do the reverse engineering to solve a problem. But there's a good news. Every day brings new challenges. We have support of different teams within WorkSafeBC, all the development teams, cloud engineering and common engineering when needed. And source of failure is always the recent change. So that is my learning. A recap of this presentation, right? With the SRE's job is to ensure systems are reliable. They are not roadblock on the way to prod. They just like they are helper to make production system reliable. Incidents are okay as long as, right, you can minimize the impact and you can prevent the reoccurrence. You can do a blameless postmortem. They are an opportunity for learning. And just focus on eliminating toil, and that makes life a lot easier, and have an optimal observability system. Thank you. I'll pass it to Willie.
Thanks, Naveen.
Thank you, Naveen. Great presentation. Do we have questions?
Yeah, I do have one question, just interesting. Obviously, I wanted to know, like, what observability tools, I know we talked about monitoring here. Observability tools are used by our SRE teams, I mean, WorkSafeBC, if it is something.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question, Raj. I can answer that. Thanks for the question.
Yeah.
So traditionally, we have different tools. We started most of our online services. We use App Insights and Azure Monitor. But last year we bought an enterprise tool, Dynatrace, which we are rolling out to different services. It's not covering all the services as of now, but yeah, that is a kind of enterprise scale observability platform which we are trying to bring and onboard all the services to there. But primarily, we have more of our services on Azure App Insights and Azure Monitor.
Okay. Okay. I mean, do we use any telemetry like micrometer or something, open telemetry for distributed tracing or?
No.
No.
We use Azure SDK. Like most of our application, they are either based on Azure .NET Core or
Oh,
Angular. So
okay.
we use respective application inside SDK for their instrumentation. But we have opportunity now, right? Because Dynatrace has some open telemetry libraries which it support, and we can instrument the application using those open telemetry SDK. But
Oh,
currently we don't have any. It's all App Insight SDK.
okay. Yeah, that simplifies job because when I worked with VMware, Tanzu, because in microservices, developer can do some mimic, some ingest some metrics, application metrics, like you mentioned, right? Successful status, HTTP request, failed request. If these things comes from application itself, only our observability platform will capture that, make a dashboard so that we know what is error budgets reaching or SLAs are not meeting. Yeah, thanks. Just when I want to correlate, the industry these days, so many monitoring and observability tools. So we need to know what's going in industry. So that's why I'm curious to know about those things. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, thanks for your question. I think
And we've got a question from Narinder.
Hi, Naveen. Yeah, hi. Thanks for your insight about the SRE lifestyle. Yeah, I worked closely with you. I remember. So my question is about we have this sunset period, right? Where the SRE overlap with the dev team, right? Like it's kind of handover period where basically you get to know about the application, you understand the logging and everything is in place, and then of course there is a checklist. And then after that, like once this sunset happened, right? Then it's SRE responsibility to take care of the application. So my question is more about do you think it will be like more helpful if like SRE based on your experience because you know the pain point, right? So it will be more helpful if the SRE is like involved even earlier in the planning phase, like during the initial planning, maybe give your requirement or put a storage in the backlog so that it can be like that process can be speed up later on. So what is your thought?
Yeah, that's a great question, Narinder, and I kind of agree with you. That was the original idea, right? That is our whole intention, right? To shift left actually as early as possible, because there's no point of coming at the end and then it's like increase the cost of It's like a fixing a bug, right? That is more than the actual developing cost. So
because
that is
I
our
felt
whole
like
intention.
usually there is some like at the end sometime because there is a rush, right?
Yes.
So the dev team has to move to the new project. So
yes,
like it's good idea to have like
no, that's a great, and that is like whole intention. We are trying to do that, right? To have inject those requirements into the backlog earlier, right? As soon as you sunrise the project, so that the dev team they can focus on that, right? As
because
initially,
based
rather
on
than
your experience, because you know the pain point, right? So you can easily create those stories.
yes,
Maybe it's about logging or anything like those sort of things.
correct. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. So that is the definitely our target right now. Even we are doing some we have some other plans also, right? Like not just like SRE team just act as an enabler, right? Maybe some person I was discussing like internally, right? We were discussing so that we give that kind of processes and tools to the dev team also, right? So that there can be one person, right? From the dev team itself, they can assume the responsibility of an SRE, right? So that is something, yeah, discussing. Thank you.
Thank you.
The question from Harsim Ran, sorry.
Yeah, hello. Thanks, Naveen, for the presentation, and pardon the noise in my background. I'm in the gymnasium, but it was a really great presentation. Similar to Raj's question, like I also wanted to know, like, what kind of tools do you use for like incident reviews? And you also touched upon blameless postmortems and stuff like that. So do you use any specific tools to drive those, or like they're pretty much ad hoc?
Tool-wise, we have for specifically, right? If you're asking for the postmortem, right? That happens. That is a manual process, right? We have a documentation where you just put all the run sheet of, right, for any production incident, right, what the sequence of event, but that information come from different tools, right? Whether it is Azure App Insights or the ServiceNow, right? Because for any incident postmortem, you want to get the exact, right, what is your mean time to detect, right? When basically the team acknowledged the incident, right? When it was fixed, right? When you stop the bleeding, those kind of information comes from the ServiceNow. We have a ServiceNow platform, and the other information come from either Application Insight or ServiceNow. And we are integrating these two systems now, right? So that like we have automation for that information, right? For any incident, right? Instead of manually, we get all this information. We get all that information automatically, right? It is centralized, consolidated. So does that answer your question?
No, it does. It does. And how do you keep track of like follow-ups at scale, right? Like,
yes.
So if there are like so many incidents happening, like it's the norm, right? We've all been there. Incidents keep propping up left and right all the time, despite the best efforts, right? So how do you kind of keep track and prioritize the items that really need to be addressed?
Correct. Correct.
Because there could be like so many of those.
Yeah. So we have a very good process for that, defined process for that, Harsimran. So for every incident, there is always an improvement item created in the backlog, and it is assigned to the respective owner, and it is tracked to the closer, right? So basically what happens, right? If you do a postmortem for any incident, there will be some action item, right? You miss something, and that is the whole purpose of postmortem, right? You want to become better, right? So that you don't want your system to fail in the same way, right? That is basically a learning opportunity. So for that, we use Azure DevOps, SDO, and we create improvement item, right? In that corresponding to that incident, one-to-one mapping. It can be one-to-many also, but for sure there is a one improvement item corresponding to each incident, and it is assigned to respective owners. We do basically, we get together as a team, right? There is a specific team which do a follow-up on that, and they want to make sure, right, that improvement item is actioned upon, so that we don't do the same type of firefighting again and again, right? That's not a kind of, you're making progress if you are just doing, as you said, right? If there are many incidents, right? Because but if you focus on that, right, if you're improving, right, maybe 1%, 2%, you are finding the patterns, right, and you are making sure those don't repeat in the same way. So I think that is the way we are following.
Yeah, thank you so much. And one last, short question again. Do you use anything to like also communicate with your customers during an incident? Let's say there's a customer facing incidents, like, or do you use something like status page or something to communicate out to the customers, or put out like notice banners and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's again great question. So for any planned outage, right, if we have any planned outage, we do a banner on our like portal, which is WorkSafeBC.com, right, for any planned maintenance, or if we are in some kind of incident and we want to make sure, right, our customers are aware of that, and so that they are not, right, just panic mode and just calling our on-call number, right, the support desk number. And for the incident which are raised by our customers, we have a capability in ServiceNow where we can put some comment, we can update the incident, and we can mark that comment to visible to customer, so that customer also can get updates, right, day to day. And whenever we resolve any incidents or updates, so customer can get the updates, right, transparent updates. Okay, what's happening with that issue.
Thanks so much, Naveen. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for your question.
Yeah, Naveen, that's really scares me. When you have a production incident, P1 incident, hundreds and along with customer, all leadership, 100 people will join and, and everybody asks question. We have to see that chat and answering everybody while working. Oh my God. Initially, 2017, this was stressful to me. Now I got used how to deal
I
with.
talk to my team like here, like it's a very not like we are doing a lot better, right? When my previous job at Starbucks, right, when some Starbucks center, right, like some billing machine is not working, right? So IoT basically, we had a very thin window of right fixing that. So that was a little more stressful than this one, right? So
True. Same with me in fintech. Like, when some payment processing issue comes in, yeah, that's a different experience though.
yeah.
Well,
That's not for
so
faint heart, right? That's not for faint heart.
yeah,
And that
that's
too
why we need to
in
protect them, protect them from onlookers.
Yes.
So separate team, separate meeting. Yeah.
and that too in the public sector, specifically in government side, like getting an email like SLA 80K per hour, and then after a few hours like 250K. So like if you get that kind of an email every few hours, like it is more stressful.
Yeah, I think DevOps makes a big difference actually.
Yeah.
That's
We are pretty
like
doing
my
good there, right?
experience.
In terms of that, I
Because
think.
if you go with the traditional way, it's totally kind of disaster like they you see, but it's a lot more managed in a DevOps world.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like generally as a SRE, we do not directly, they don't reach out to SRE in the previous organization I worked for. In Oracle, yeah, customer facing team separate. In some organization, they have a command center in fintech large companies. Based on impact size, command center knows, and they know based on our teams, they look out who is on call today. Then they first loop that person, that on call person that day, and that's how this guy knows who to work with based on application. He pulls in right people into the team. Maybe he wants some dev or business analyst or some Splunk expert, something like that, right? So in WorkSafeBC, and what is the process? I mean, there is a command center is what first comes in. I mean, the life cycle of complete production incident, let's say it's a P1S1, then how this sort of thing works. I mean, just curious to see if anything different process.
Yeah, that's a good question. So we have a process defined for those kind of scenario, right? If like it's a war room, right? We establish war room for any P1 incident, P1, P0 incidents, and there is a process defined for like keeping the leadership, right? The business in for communication, there is a separate process for that, separate communication room. And then for the technical folks, right, there is a separate room, right, where all the technical people are working on that problem. And we have a process for updating the business on a periodic basis, right? Because we don't want everybody's there, right? And kind of business put a pressure on the technical team. So we are quite good in that. So there is a process defined for that, to how basically you will tackle the P1 issue, right? If that is something happens, so there is a process we follow communication wise.
Okay.
And we can bring all the people, right? That as I was telling, we have very good support from all the dev teams, right? Whether because it's not right, all the application has been developed from us, right? For example, Narendra was there when there are bugs, right, which we can't fix, right? Because we don't know the code. So we can always bring on the people from the dev team to help us, right? And not only from the dev team, we have different teams, right? Integration team, identity team, networking team. So whenever there is such kind of incident, all hands on deck, right? All these teams come together because that is our first priority.
Yeah, because I feel like in a traditional way of dealing it, there is a big disconnect because someone like from the support team, right? You call, let's say P1 happens, and then you call a developer. You sometimes don't even know that person. But in the DevOps, it's a big like connection between different teams. They are glued together to solve any
Yes.
problem because they know each other very well. They are very working in a, like tightly
Correct.
coupled. And,
Yeah. That's the DevOps, right? That's the
yeah,
mindset, right? It's
that
not
makes
more of
a
a
big
customer
difference.
relationship, right? You are telling, oh, now you are the responsible, right? So this is right, kind of silos, right? You break those
Yeah,
silos, right? So
yeah,
the only objective is get the things done, right? So,
yeah.
and it's no more right relationship. Okay, now it is your responsibility. I am no more responsible. I am moved to new project. So that is something I think, yeah, that is exactly Narendra. That is the DevOps culture, right? True
Yeah.
DevOps, right?
We've got Shravan, who's got
Sure,
his hand up for quite a while already. Okay, Shravan, over to you.
Hey, thanks, team. And Naveen, I think it's a really great presentation, and you have an opportunity to look into how SRE operates at WorkSafeBC, especially if you are outside of WorkSafeBC. You never know about the company, DevOps culture, and SRE, but it's really great to see how you guys operate, the mindset, and everything. Great collaboration questions as well so far. I think a couple of my questions already answered by the folks on the team, and you answered it really well. The only thing I have is when you define an SLA, what is the reliability percentage that is defined in SLA for any or all of your products at WorkSafeBC?
Mm-hmm.
Or another way of asking that is, what is the acceptable downtime per month that is defined in SLOs?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question, Sharwan. So uh, it depends on the service, right? Criticality of the service. For example, we have some services which are very critical for our customer. For example, the reporting services, right? Like all our employers, right, across British Columbia, they have to report payroll to us, right? So, and we want, right? Those services are always available. And similarly for our workers, right? Injured workers, we had kind of, right? If somebody is injured, they want to report, right? I am injured. So we want, right? Those services are critical for us, right? We don't want any issue on those services. So for those services, we have relatively higher SLAs. We don't have kind of any like cookie cutter, right? For all the services, like same SLA, depending upon the criticality of the service, right? Because we are into a business, right? Where we want to make sure safe working environment for our workers and our employers. So based on that criteria, we think, right, this is a service for, right, which we want my service, right? We want our workers, right? They can get paid, right, when they want, right? And so we define SLAs, but definitely, as I mentioned, right, none, they are right reasonable. They are discussed with the business and the product owners, and we track them, right? Kind of not for all the services, but that is that is the exercise we follow, right, for defining SLA. And it's an iterative process, right? Like you don't know, right? Based on the experience of running an application for some period of time, right? You keep on refining those SLA, right? You find, okay, this is request time. Initially, I thought, right, it is like this much, and but as your application evolution, right? Your application also keep on changing, right? So you can't have the same SLA. You need to refine it, right, as your application basically evolve over a period of time. But
In that
short
case,
answer is it is depends on the application criticality. And for DevOps, right, your first command, that is all right to Andre, right, our leader, right? He's kind of there are many folks right here like Narendra who works, right? So we are kind of I am proud, right? We are lot ahead, right, in many government organization, and I have seen that experience, right, talking to many peoples, right, and from different, right, who have experienced. So they have very good experience, right, dealing with WorkSafeBC online services.
I think, thank you. I mean, I think I agree with as your product evolves and it has to have different SLAs redefined and restructured. But another small question related to the same, if we have a product which is we already aware of and known, so the SLAs can be redefined and adjusted based on experience, as you mentioned. But if you're launching a very new product just in case, what are some of the ground rules, or how do you can actually come to a establishment of setting those SLAs? Because you never had an experience on the product. Let's say no one in the market has a product. We are releasing it for the first time. What are the things that set the boundary, like a baseline boundary? Okay, this is a baseline for our SRE for the very new product that is going in the market. And what we need to make to ensure that these the values we set initially are accurate. How can we measure or know that's the actual accurate levels for a new product or an application?
Yeah, that's again great question. So that is again come to right for a like as you said, right, totally new, you don't know anything. So we can just take some similar product, right, we have in our portfolio, or we can just start with some baseline reasonable SLAs, right, for those SLOs, which we think, right, and then we can do regular monitoring, right, for those services and see, right, if how far we are right with that, right, is it based on the pattern, right, what is the like error behavior pattern for that application, right, response time, are we seeing, right, lot of basically it's looking deeply into your service health, right, through monitoring tool, right, with the application insight or Dynatrace that gives you a lot of information basically on which you can refine your SLA. So you are deeply looking into the telemetry of your data, right, that is the internal health of your application, and that is giving you enough information so that you can refine your SLA, right. You just start with the raw, something basic, and then based on that internal X-ray, right, of your health, how it is performing actual, right, and that is just, you can't just do for a 1-day load or like 1 week of traffic, right, you have to see the patterns, right, or weekday traffic, right, weekend traffic, and based on that basically you keep on in a refining mode, right, iteration for that, defining those SLOs.
Yeah,
Most probably the other part as well is where during the design phase you look at the SLIs, and the critical element is going to define really, or the weakest link in the chain is going to define really what the SLO is going to be, because you cannot be better than your weakest link. So when you look at all those components that actually consist of this new application consists of, look at the weakest one, how we can actually protect this one, and that most probably gives you the answer what is going to be SLO. But again, as Naveen mentioned earlier, that's SLO is not the same as SLA, because the other one is a contractual agreement. So you want to be more aggressive on SLO side than on SLA. That's the negotiation with the business as well. And then the other aspect, the input is from the business, what they really need, right? Because they really understand the criticality of the application for the business, for the customers, in our case, stakeholders, like injured workers, they can't wait. So this is definitely raising the stakes, right?
Yeah, and it depends on user journey, right? Like each application has different user journey, right? Just for a simple, just take a scenario, right? Bank transfer, right? You're doing bank transfer, you will add basically pay, and then you will make a transfer. So that is more critical than, right? Like you are just doing a profile update on a banking application, just a simple scenario, right? So based on that, we do prioritization and refinement. So and input come from business, right? As well, right? What is their kind of SLA or SLO internally they want.
Yeah, I think you covered most of the thing, Henry, but that's what, I love one point. This is a great question. Mostly, right, end user always want faster. It's a Facebook, Instagram, doesn't matter. So industry standard is one of the benchmark. When there's no benchmark, for all the people they make at least meet the industry standard. All the time they have to maintain, right? Maybe 3 nines is just to start with, but anything less than 3 nines, people don't like it for sure. 8 hours to 9 hours per year downtime is acceptable for industry based on different standard. That's what we see. And second thing, as Andrew mentioned, right, this is what we followed, because when new product is developed, the SLOs, internal objectives, are very high. Means like for example, my CPU usage threshold, for example, in production 70, 680, we are okay, sometimes spiking, but we wanted to make sure the thresholds in the SLOs, internal SLOs, are not definitely more than 70. 70 is alert, but in production we can wait because at the period, right, it can go to 15 minutes. We'll see until 80 what's going on. We can wait, but SLOs will be very aggressive. Okay, 60, 70, so that we have some room in the production. Something goes wrong. So yeah, I do agree. When there is no data, this is what we have to go with industry standard. Keep evolving with monitoring tools, and yeah, make aggressive SLOs. That's what I
And
feel.
moreover, right, adding each 9, right, add cost, right? I was hearing the broadcast, right, by Google, which is Google Podcast for, right, SRE team. They literally say, right, even we don't have, right, 99.99 kind of for all the services, because they have only for one service, 99.99%, which is their ad service, right, which is literally bread and butter of Google, right? And for that also, their infrastructure is 20x, right? They have basically duplicacy of 20x time, right, than the normal benchmarks. So you think of the cost, right? Like each 9 comes with a lot of cost, right?
Well, it's exponential. It's exponential increase of the cost. So
and
at a
the
certain
benefit
point, you
doesn't
don't want to get
correct. And benefit, you don't get that benefit, right? The proportionate benefit, right? Because the benefit keep on reducing. The complexity increases, benefit reduces. Even it is not required, right? If you think of 99.99, even your internet service provider, you develop some app, right? That is not that reliable, right? If you take your Thales or Shaw, they don't have that reliability, right? Even some app is right 100% SLA, right? SLO, right? You can't use it, right? Because your intermediate ISP is not that reliable. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's a kind of a very kind of uh, thoughtful process, right? You have to set up like very cautiously.
The best answer would be it depends.
It depends.
Generally, it depends, right? But whenever there's a monetary loss, like say fintech can't tolerate, right? I mean, at least I do agree. From 2 nines, 3 nines to 5 nines, it take 3 to 5 years because huge cost, right? Different data centers we have to maintain. Is a duplicate of work, lot of work, duplicates. Hybrid model you have to go. I mean, company has to spend a lot of money. That's what I've seen. From 2, 3 nines to 5 nines, it took for us almost 3 years at least. I've seen it. It's a lot of work.
That's
So
true.
much investment. Yeah.
Great answers, team. Thank you so much for again and a wonderful discussion. I appreciate it.
Great question, Shravan, and it's mind blowing. I mean,
Yeah, no, it's
there's
great
no
question.
SLS. How do we come up, man? That's very strong. Good question, though. Thanks for the question. Yeah.
And Naveen, I've got a quick question to you. For the members who are starting, members of this meetup who are starting their career, what is the best way to enter SRE path? What's your experience? How did you start? How do you get into this?
I think the I will have a long and short answers. I'll give the short one. It depends on personal interest, right? Kind of, right? Your curiosity, right? How do you basically look at the problem, right? You have to be naturally curious, right? To know, right? What is happening, right? If you see any errors, right? That is my tendency. I want to know, right? Why it is happening, right? I may not know all the answers. So, but it is curiosity, right? To make something, right? Kind of perfection. And we have many people, right, in our team, right? Especially want to thanks, right, Jason Ballis, right, who helped me with this presentation. So those kind of person, right, in my whole SRE team, right, they kind of, right, they look for perfection. That is one thing. And how do you want to start? I would say, right, administration, right, start with the basic administration skill, right? Now, cloud administration, right, be it AWS or Azure. So just look for like services, right? Automation, start with that. And then when you start working on few services, you get to know the pattern, right? How the failure pattern. So most of these come with the experience, because you can't get everything right by just reading the books or right or doing some like small projects. Most of them, I think it comes with experience. The more basically you get involved into the issues, right, happening in the organization, and even though, right, you're not responsible, you go there and basically know, right, what is happening. You learn a lot from those scenario, right, instead of just focusing on what your work is. So I think that is I would say I would give that, right, just even if it is not your role, right? For example, if somebody is QA and uh, they are not responsible for the operation, but as a natural tendency, right? If they have the time, they have done their work, and go there and talk to the people, right? What is the issue, right? How did you fix it? So I think that is the main thing, right? That will help you to get not only for SRE role, any role, right? That is like kind of a common principle.
Yeah,
Thank you.
For SRE, I think it's a little different. I mean, it's multiple hats, right?
Yeah.
When a product is there, we need to know architecture patterns as well. When a developer or college fresher comes in, like, yeah, he's good at coding, but SRE is really stressful in my opinion, because without knowing he has to know the application architectures, which means maybe what patterns they're using, or this is huge for them, right? And some automation, they need to have some cloud knowledge, some system knowledge, some backend knowledge.
It's a big picture, right? Instead of like
yeah.
depth, right? It is more of a breadth, actually.
Right,
this
exactly.
is what I feel, right? So it's more of a breadth, right? You try to look at the big picture. There are still scenarios you need to go deep, but mostly it is about the breadth, right? You see end to end, right?
Yes.
Because our environment is also not that easy, right? Yeah, I think we have a question from Sainath.
Yeah, thank you, Naveen. So my main question is, like, how does WorkSafeBC measures the return of investments of its DevOps and SRE initiatives? Let's say like factors such as like cost reduction, efficiency gains, and then improved customer satisfaction.
Andre, can I pass that question to you?
Oh, yes, of course. So as a matter of fact, DORA has several metrics, but there is also several metrics available, and we are measuring those as well, obviously, that show improvement in the speed and delivery, but also ability to respond faster. So we just look at those. There is several statistics that actually show across, and we are not the best, right? So we are not in the top, most probably top 10% of those organizations that adopted both DevOps and SRE, but we are pretty high, I would say. So we constantly look at this, but honestly speaking, it's not even an option. It's not even an option at this point, right? There's no better way of delivery software. The people that write the software are the best people to operate the software, and they are the motivated the best to write the quality code and automate testing as well, because nobody wants to be woke up in the middle of the night when a system suddenly fails, and you don't want to have those incidents quite often. So we are monitoring those, obviously, but for us, this is not even an option. It's not like, oh, we are going to go back to something better, or we're going to back to waterfall delivery. That's not an option. So yeah, so there is obviously an investment in that, but ultimately the bottom line is both speed of delivery, ability to iteratively deliver the software, and reduce potential failures when we miss the requirements because customer did not really understood, for example, or didn't understand what they are getting. So in our case, the customer, our product owners are really coming from the business. They are part of the team. So one of the way, I mean, we started in 2017, and I had a couple of presentations on that, how we moved. But the bottom line is that our first product owners were actually people from the business. I remember there was a lady when we started in June 2017. She was appointed the product owner. She had about 30 years experience as a manager at WorkSafeBC, business manager. She had absolutely no clue about technology, and now she was the product owner. She was assigned to the team. And I can tell you the first day, I think she was in my office, and she almost cried. And she said, there was a stand-up meeting and I had absolutely no clue what these people were talking about. And then about 3 months later, I was in the stand-up. I just went there to actually listen to that. And she was talking about APIs and service fabric, right? This was to me the best way to show that actually we're able to break the silo between the business and IT and delivery. And even more, her boss actually, he told me he absolutely loved when she was away on vacation, because he was then in the stand-up meeting moving the cards and talking to the team what he wants to get, and then team showing him this stuff working. Not 12 months from now. They were actually doing this every single day. So, I can speak because my skin is in the game, and and I love that. But talk to the business people, because this is what they really hear and what they actually experience. That's I think what it is. And ultimately it's fun, isn't it? Because we see actually how quickly things happen, and we see the change. Yes. So to me, that's what it is. But regarding to when we're talking about metrics, there is several metrics. There is some basics, and there are some derivative metrics as well that we are using. And Willie, for example, is one of those that is measuring on the common engineering area, in the common engineering team. So yeah. I'm not sure if I answer all the questions, but yeah, it's definitely return on investment. I can tell you it is worth going this way.
And thank you, Andre. And the best matrix is showing the working demo of the application,
Absolutely.
That is, I think, the best kind of you can show to business, rather than showing
every 2 weeks.
Yes. Yeah.
And more relying in terms of speed of delivery, when you said more on the card solution or in-house solution that you're more interested in?
Well, so honestly speaking, I don't think that overall the product is delivered faster. I don't think so, right? I mean, yes, because obviously we got a lot of automation. When it comes about DevOps, it's obviously the definition of DevOps: culture, automation, lean processes, measurements, and the ability to recover quickly from failures. But the bottom line is that overall, it's still going to take you time to deliver the product. But what is more important, you get it faster, the minimum viable products or MVPs or minimum marketable products. You get it faster because, and you can actually show, you can implement in production. You don't have the entire product yet, but some pieces of that are working already, and you start gathering the feedback. So you could see you are on the right track or you are not. So in our case, for example, the product owner can actually decide at the time that, oh yes, it is working well, we're on the right track, we are going to for the next MVP, and we require additional funding. Or it's actually not exactly what we are getting, let's pivot. Or the third option, let's cancel. Let's cancel this particular feature because we are not getting that. The cost of that is way smaller than if you continue for month and month and month, and then you find out that actually you're not getting those results. That's where the cost is, right? So, and then obviously the other part as well, fixing bugs and issues earlier, because you already got something working and you collect this information. Then the cost of fixing bug at the very beginning is way smaller than doing this a couple of months later, which is not only more difficult to find where this particular issue was, but you build an entire piece of code around that, which you can not easily change anymore. And you have to retest the whole thing, right? And you need to have user acceptance testing that you need to do on a way larger scale. So, the cost is exponentially increasing. So shifting it left, it's actually something that's improving efficiency and economics of the product delivery.
Thank you.
All right. So Willie, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Naveen, for a really great session and a really vibrant question and answer session. I'm sure that the DevOps community will be in touch with you on LinkedIn. And
yeah, sure.
Yeah, now for the closing act. Chris, you've been very patient. Best Buy will be hosting the DevOps Meetup in June and is here to give us a sneak peek of what they will cover and why we should be there. So, Christopher, can I hand over the virtual stage to you to talk about Best Buy?
Hey, Willie. It's actually going to be Ethno that'll be taking you through what he plans on presenting on June.
Hi, Ethno.
Awesome. Thank you, Willie. Thank you, Chris. Hope everybody can hear me. So let me share my screen. All right, hope everybody can see my screen. So just a quick introduction about myself. My name is Yetnor Jacob. I am the Technology Manager of Reliability Platform Teams at Best Buy Canada. So I'm here to invite all of you for the upcoming DevOps Meetup, which we are planning to organize at the Best Buy headquarters. Timeline-wise, as Willie said, we are looking towards the last week of June. Exact details and date will be published later. So what I'm sharing in the screen is our agenda for that session. As an introduction, we'll be planning to share some insights towards Best Buy Canada's reliability platform team, our domain, who we are, and what we do. After that, we will be sharing our observability journey at Best Buy. I hope this will be very interesting for everyone. In this, we would like to share details regarding how we transform the observability and monitoring space in Best Buy over the period of last few years. Mainly, we will be touching up with all the tools which we were previously using and the current tooling which we have. And we will touch base on the changes implemented in application and network and infrastructure monitoring, alongside with the tooling consolidation, which we did in Best Buy and its associated benefits. Then we will cover our SRE practices, details regarding the actual implementation of SLA, SLO, and SLI. What are the tools which we are using in order to monitor all these SRE practices, and how we are dashboarding it, and what are the actions taken based on these particular metrics inside Best Buy. We will be covering our alerting platforms, which we are using our incident management, and how we are contributing towards the post-incident review. And at last, we will be covering the platform adoption strategies, which we are using in Best Buy Canada. This will give you insights towards how to make new platform adoption successful by measuring the adoption progress using key performance indicators. So a lot of interesting items over there. Under Chris, we have 4 organizing team already formed, and we already started working on the stuff. So stay tuned for further updates regarding the date and time, and please join us. So that's it from my end. Thank you, and back to Willie.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Best Buy? Well, we got crickets, Andre, or everybody's muted. So I guess we can call it an evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Anything else from you, Andre, Martin?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And as always, we are looking for speakers and topics, and also even for the feedback. If there is something very specific that you are interested, that you would like to hear, we can find potentially speakers to those in those areas. So please reach out to us, to Willie, Martin, Ilse, myself, and let us know. Thank you.
Awesome.
See you next month. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Naveen, for a great presentation.
Hey, thanks to everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye now.